Today, we are diving deep into one of the most complex and honestly, one of the most agonizing moral puzzles in all of literature: the ethics of the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata. It's a story that grapples with a question that is just as real for us today as it was thousands of years ago. And this is it. This is the central paradox that powers the entire epic. How can this be? On one hand, the story holds up nonviolence as the absolute highest virtue. But on the other, the main event, the entire climax of the story, is one of the most brutal, devastating wars you could ever imagine. So how can both of these things possibly be true at the same time?
So here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll look at the contradiction itself. Then we're going to build the case for nonviolence, the ideal. After that, we'll flip it and explore the absolute duty to fight.
Okay, let's start by really framing this conflict. Because, this isn't just a plot point. It's right at the very heart of Hindu ethics. So on one side, you've got this beautiful, absolute spiritual ideal, ahimsa paramo dharma. It means nonviolence is the highest dharma, the ultimate moral law. But then, smack up against that, you have the reality of the story, the Kurukshetra war, a massive battle that's actually called a dharma yuddha, a righteous war. You see the tension immediately, right? The ideal says do no harm, but reality is screaming that a fight is necessary to uphold that very righteousness. So to really get this, we have to first appreciate just how powerful the argument for pure, absolute nonviolence is inside the epic itself. This is not a minor idea. And the key word here is ahimsa. Now, this isn't just about not getting into a fist fight. It's so much deeper. It means a total commitment in your thoughts, in your words, and in your actions to avoid causing harm to any living creature. That is an incredibly high spiritual standard to live by. And listen to who's saying this. This isn't some fringe character. This is Bhishma. He's the grand patriarch of the whole clan, the most respected warrior in the entire epic. And he says nonviolence is the highest truth, the source from which all other duties flow. So this is the absolute, unimpeachable ideal.
But then, the Mahabharata just flips the whole script. It presents this radical counter-argument. It says there are times when refusing to fight, when clinging to your pacifism, is actually the greater sin.
And to do this, it introduces this idea called swadharma. Think of it as your personal role-specific duty. A priest's duty is different from a merchant's. And for the warrior class, the kshatriya, where our heroes come from, well, their specific job, their swadharma, is to protect the innocent and punish evil. And that duty sometimes requires force. And this all comes to a head with Lord Krishna himself. He tells the hero Arjuna that the sin of omission, of just standing by and letting evil win because you don't want to get your hands dirty, is far worse than the sin of acting. Refusing to fight a just war isn't holy, it's a failure of duty. It's an unrighteous act, it's a dharma. Okay, this story from the epic is it's incredible, and it illustrates this point perfectly. You have this sage, Kaushika, who takes a vow to only speak the literal, factual truth, no matter what. So one day, some murderers run up to him and they ask where the innocent people they're chasing are hiding. Bound by his vow, the sage tells them the truth. He points the way. The innocents are all killed. And for his virtue, for sticking to his rigid rule, Kaushika was sent to hell. The lesson is chilling. A so-called virtue that helps evil triumph is no virtue at all. So this really sets up two completely different ethical systems. You've got absolute morality, where rules are rules, end of story. Truth is just factual accuracy. Nonviolence means never, ever harming. But then you have the situational ethics that the epic champions. Here, a lie that saves a life is better than a truth that kills. And sometimes force is required to stop a greater threat. It's not about inflexible rules. It's about context. But here's the thing. This situational approach is not an easy way out. Not at all. The epic is brutally, painfully honest about the cost of these choices. So now we're going to move from the theory to the agonizing reality of this so-called righteous war. To win this war, the good guys had to break the rules. They had to. They took down the invincible Bhishma by hiding behind a human shield. They shattered the will of the great general Drona by telling him a carefully crafted lie about his son. They killed the mighty Karna while he was defenseless, unarmed, just trying to fix his chariot. These were not honorable moves, but the story argues they were necessary. And is there a victory parade? No. The victor, King Yudhishthira, is completely broken.
He looks out at the field covered with the bodies of his cousins, his teachers, his friends, and he just says our victory feels entirely like a defeat. The triumph is just soaked in grief.
And this is absolutely crucial. The epic refuses to glorify this war. It shows that even when violence is justified, it's a kind of spiritual poison. The winners aren't celebrating, they're drowning in guilt and trauma. It shows that even a necessary war will scar your soul. So, how does the epic possibly resolve this gut-wrenching contradiction? It does it with a final, brilliant synthesis. It introduces the impartial, inescapable law of karma. Get this, at the end of his life, Yudhishthira, the king of Dharma, the most righteous man alive, has to spend a moment in hell. Why? As direct cosmic payment for that single righteous lie he told to help defeat Drona. The act was necessary to win the war, yes, but the universe still demanded he pay a personal price for the impurity of telling a lie. And what about Krishna, the divine orchestrator of the whole thing? Does he get a pass? No way. He humbly accepts a curse from a grieving mother, which leads to his entire family wiping each other out and to his own lonely, tragic death. In this system, not even God is exempt from the consequences of violence. And this is the epic's breathtaking solution. You see, the act itself can be justified on a societal level. Yudhishthira's lie was necessary to uphold Dharma in the world. But on a cosmic level, the law of karma is absolute. The universe still demanded a personal payment for the inherent impurity of the act. You can do the right thing for the world, but you can never escape the personal karmic price tag. So what does this all mean? What's the final takeaway? The Mahabharata teaches something incredibly sophisticated. It says that real righteousness isn't about blindly following a list of rules. It's about the agonizing, messy business of navigating competing duties. It says that sometimes, to protect the greater good, you might have to do something that feels wrong. But, and this is the absolute key, you must be willing to fully accept and pay the terrible price the universe will demand from you for that choice. And that leaves us with one last profound question to think about. What kind of moral system demands that you do the right thing while knowing for a fact that you will still be punished for it? It's a heavy, challenging thought, and it's the deep and maybe even unsettling wisdom of the Mahabharata.